Okay, we're back. Fucking hell, fifth season, fifth. It's not season or series. Episode. There we go. The fifth fucking episode of the podcast. Podge, we were in getting a coffee there, and you mentioned something about safety. I think you were following on from what I was saying about building sites, basically, and the idea being that there comes a point when they become almost too safe to the point whereby they're dangerous.
Yes.
And I think you mentioned something along the lines of, did you mention compelled speech, or is that how we started talking
the
about
compelled speech / hate speech / political correctness, I suppose, would be more generalised again.
Because they're all safety measures, aren't they?
Yeah, like the analogous to the handrail that becomes unsafe around the scaffold, and it's kind of like handrails around conversations, and even just again more prescribed ideas to follow, so as that you know you're not going to step out of boundaries, which kind of links back to again what we were talking about, why people might want to come on the podcast in the first place. Is just the element of danger. And
there is. There's no handrails. There's no handrails on the conversation.
Yeah, I was contemplating ringing yourself this morning or last night and kind of just backing out, but I think that's purely it, the kind of fear of the unknown, like, oh fuck, what did I sign myself up for again?
Do you know something? You have me thinking now, what I've often thought about before is, like, I've had a fairly eclectic range of guests. So I've had, everyone from psychedelic explorers to fucking, ultra athletes to fucking everyone in between, and a handful of quote unquote normal people thrown in for good measure. But there's obviously something that connects them all, and I'm wondering is there a danger element that people are finding appealing? Do you know what kind of way is it? Because the danger element, there's a what we're trying to say, there's a certain danger to speaking freely,
for sure.
And I wonder, are the people who don't come on too afraid to come on? Which means I can extrapolate that the people who do come on are either not afraid in the first place or are brave, essentially. They know the danger and they're willing to step outside their comfort zone. Because stepping outside your comfort zone is stepping into danger.
Big time, yeah. The safety rails are taken away, kind of up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah, because it's funny though, because in keeping with the building site analogy, you don't want to fall 20 feet onto solid concrete.
No, certainly not.
No matter who or what you are, or where you're going, or where you've come from, or anything. It's just full stop, blanket. No one wants to fall off scaffolding.
Yeah, oh yeah, and even worse, no one wants the equivalent of 20 of your neighbours showing up on your doorstep giving out stink about things that you think. So, if I say something that's maybe not well thought out, and then it's immortalised on the internet, somehow I'm not that popular, but if somehow there's a Twitter hate mob that formed itself around things I was saying, how do you deal with that? Like, just random people that you might know or know through other people who just suddenly, there's a whole mob that are out against absolutely everything that you think or stand for. Maybe just something you said nearly off the cuff, or something you don't really think, just something you thought of in a moment, and then suddenly there's a whole mob of people that kind of want you dead almost.
I wonder how real that threat is. Because the feeling you could be forgiven for being afraid of what you just outlined there. Now, I know you were kind of tongue-in-cheek. You're not expecting 200 neighbours outside your fucking gaff.
Really not.
But there is this certain... Even though you're not afraid of 200 people with pitchforks outside your fucking house, you're not afraid of that. But you did very nearly text me this morning and go, what, Fran, I'm not feeling great, or herself needs me to give her a hand, or,
generic excuse. Generic excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, insert excuse here. But I wonder, that fear, is that completely overblown? Because another thing that I keep hearing is this idea of cancel culture and people getting cancelled. And I wonder how real that is. Like how, like you had the instance, let's say, with your man in KPMG, so it does happen, and there are loads of other instances where it does happen. But does it happen because of how they deal with it after the fact as much as what they say. Because for me personally, if I'm to be vilified for a view I do hold, I have no issue with that. But if you want to sack me over it, you want to be careful you don't get done for unfair dismissal.
Yes.
Do you know that kind of way? So,
yeah, how the person deals with it after the fact could be as important,
if
as
not more important.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's a guy I'm a big fan of, Jonathan Haidt, and he got himself into a bit of bother 10, 15 years ago or so. He said something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was taken up as being homophobic.
Okay.
And he wasn't being homophobic. By his own admission, saying, let's just take him for his word, as word. He wasn't being homophobic, but he apologised anyway.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went,
right.
I just went, oh, ugh, like, ugh.
If you apologise or something, there should be something to be apologetic for.
Yeah,
like,
and I
you're
think
admitting to something.
Yeah, now I think he just apologised for it, and it all blew over, and everything was grand.
Okay.
But I would have much preferred him to stand over what he had said and not back down and say, fuck you and your apology. I didn't do anything that warrants me to apologise, and if that's not good enough for you, we have laws in place to... Or do we? Or should we? I mean, are there laws against homophobia that he would have been charged with if what he had said had been in fact homophobic?
Well, I think there is now. I
Should
know,
there be?
it's-
I mean,
yeah.
and I don't mean about homophobia in general, but
anything hateful, say, or
yeah, like, because you mentioned as well in the interview about something that was brought into Ireland recently that I was completely oblivious to. The hate speech laws have been introduced, have they? Or
Yeah,
are being
as far as I
introduced?
know, they've been pushed through the Shannon, so I think they're being written into law as we speak. As far as I know now, I'm not as educated on the subject as I will be or like to be, but as far as I know, yeah, they're either being pushed through or they're written into law already.
Okay, well, by both their admissions, we don't know what
exactly,
the story
yeah,
is.
the
So
ins and outs.
what we won't do is we won't get into the nuts and bolts of it because we can't. But we certainly can speak more broadly about it.
Yeah, well, free speech and hate speech are kind of, philosophically I could talk about, but I just say I don't know the mechanics of the law or the specifics.
Exactly. So we'll glaze over the specifics of the Irish case and we'll just stick with it more broadly, let's say. So my fear would be that these hate speech laws, whatever they are essentially making racism illegal.
Yes, or homophobia, or whatever.
Exactly.
Define hate in whatever way, whoever wants to define hate.
Exactly, but to me, first off, I have to clarify, I'm fundamentally opposed to banning things.
Same.
Okay, I don't think banning things work. I think if anything, it just makes things that little bit more appealing, like,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I think that there's an idea that, if racism... If racism was a certain way, there'd be no... Or what am I trying to say? Making something illegal strengthens the argument against it to some degree. Now again, I know I'm not making myself perfectly clear there, but I'm trying to see how somebody who is racist would see laws against racism as proving their point.
Oh yeah, an
if that
attack
makes
on
sense.
their way of being or their way of thinking. It's like a personal affront nearly. It's you justify someone in their thinking. It's see they're coming after my belief system.
Yeah,
or,
so the racist will say, if I didn't have a point, they wouldn't be making it illegal.
Yeah,
Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
So the reason they're making it, the reason they're putting this into law is because I'm onto something.
Yeah, your idea is so good that it can't be
It's been banned.
defeated. Yeah, we had to ban it because we couldn't intellectually defeat it. We couldn't defeat it with a better idea, so therefore make it illegal.
Yeah, there's an element to that. Now again,
Certainly,
it's
for
not
some,
the start,
for some.
middle and end of it, but it certainly feeds
Part
into
of
it.
yeah, definitely.
Political correctness as well, being PC. Just while we're on that kind of that area, and again, broad sweeping generalization alert to everybody that's fucking listening. There's a guy I'm a fan of, James O'Brien is his name. Are you familiar with him? He's one of the hosts on, is it LBC radio over in the UK?
Sorry, no, I don't know.
It's a call-in radio show, I think.
Okay.
So you have a presenter who has the mic and he's chatting about whatever he chats to, but he opens the line up for people to ring in and he talks to people. That's the premise of the show, basically. But there's one guy, James O'Brien, I'm pretty sure that's his name, and it's LBC. I love him. He's a big lefty now, but I love him. He's probably what I would consider all left, but he's fucking brilliant. I absolutely love him. And one thing he was saying that I think I'd be disagreeing with was he was basically painting people who are anti-PC as being, either racist or homophobic or fucking misogynistic or whatever.
Disguising it as free speech advocates or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point he was making was, what does being politically correct stop you from saying? And I think the point that he was trying to make was the reason that people don't like political correctness is because they can't be honest about their own racism, say. They can't be themselves, say. And to me there's something wrong there, because to me political correctness is a relatively new term. To me, political correctness is more than not being racist. Because without political correctness, you could still pull somebody up on being racist. You don't have to be politically correct to stop somebody from slurring a wide group of people, whether they're gays or immigrants or fucking whatever the group is. And political correctness, I don't know. It's just it's a weird one. Am I making sense there at all, or are you?
Yeah, for sure. It's I had something to say on it. Where are we going? So I'm lost. Political correctness. Yeah, it's. I don't know. You want to. I love the idea of the something Sam Harris says quite a lot. The marketplace of ideas, or Rogan would be another proponent of it. Like the best way to defeat bad ideas are with better ideas. So I don't know. There's definitely an element maybe of, if you don't like PC culture, it's because you're actually, you want to make crude jokes and you can't because PC culture says you can't, or workplace ethics or codes of conduct say you shouldn't say rude remarks about whatever people's sexuality or the colour of their skin or wherever it is. There's certainly an argument there, but I'd nearly agree with that, but in a different sense that, yeah, people can't say what they think, and in there lies the problem. If people can't express themselves, it's just it's like the making things illegal or legal. It's not like the problem doesn't exist just because you've ignored it. Like, it's if people are actually secretly bigots and racist but just aren't saying things because of the PC fucking culture of the day, them problems haven't disappeared. Like, they're still there. It's just people aren't fucking expressing them. And look, it's nuanced and it's tricky because you have the arguments then of online bullying and everything else, and where there has to be a line drawn somewhere. It can't be just free speech at all costs either. There's definitely there's a balance there to be had between the two kind of ideologies of kind of need to regulate speech somehow, but not so much so that people can't converse anymore. I don't know, it's similar to it's the same kind of, same in everything, that there's left-wing answers and right-wing answers. So, same with the immigration that we're talking about. It's, yeah, you can't have completely open borders because that's just not going to work, but you can't have completely closed borders either because that's not going to work. The answer's always somewhere in the middle. And maybe the middle is only a hypothetical place. There probably is. It's constantly shifting and changing. So I don't know. The best thing we can do, I suppose, just have dialogues like we're doing now and conversing.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a messy one. It's I think I lean more on the side of let people say what they want and let better ideas flourish. But obviously there is arguments then when you're on about echo chambers online and people just getting caught into their own echo chamber, and then there's no room for new ideas to come in as well. So it's,
yeah, and the person at the top of that echo chamber pyramid is a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist or some patently fucking bad person, basically. I think part of this problem is that there's a certain percentage of our population, call us the fucking liberal elites, and I consider myself in there because I'm in a position whereby, COVID messes this up a little bit, but the sentiment is there. So I have my own business. I have, a house and a wife and kids, and everything in my life has settled down kind of nicely. And I have time to think in a way that I didn't when I was more working class, for want of a better term. So when I was fucking struggling on a daily basis to fucking buy food and buy rent and fucking, doing that whole working class thing, you don't have the fucking 2 minutes to have philosophical fucking musings. Never mind sit down with someone like yourself and discuss your ideas and try and improve your philosophies. Like for the everyday working man or woman, that's practically impossible because you're up at the crack of fucking dawn. You have to get the kids ready or whatever. You're out the door to work. You spend your 8 hours in work on your 2-hour commute or whatever it is. You're home. Kids have to be fed, blah blah blah, and you're so fucking bollocks come 9 o'clock in the evening. All you want to do is sit down and watch an hour or two of telly and then go to bed. You don't have time to philosophically discuss over all these things.
For sure, yeah.
But people who are in the media, say, or who are wealthy enough that they're not trapped in that rat race, say, they have the time to think about these things and to read literature and to read what's happening in different countries and around the world and formulate their opinions, and they have the privilege to see through racism and homophobia and bigotry in general and racism, say. They have the privilege to wrap all that round their head, and they can see that homophobia is wrong, sexism is wrong, racism is wrong, bigotry is wrong. They've discussed it fully and they understand it and they're able to articulate it. But then what goes wrong is, from that position of assuredness, say, for want of a better term, they try and seek to impose that on the people who don't have the fucking time to kind of figure it out for themselves.
Top down kind of.
Very much so, yeah. We've decided racism is wrong and that's the end of it. And you're like, but and you're it's funny because on one hand you've got the top down saying, you shouldn't have ill feeling to people who look different than you. But on the other hand, all the bad guys in the movies are brown. Now again, that's a real base statement, but broad sweeping generalization intended. So you've got two narratives. You've got what you experience in your day-to-day living as a working class person, which is, TV and radio and the tabloids and the polarization of our media and all that jazz. And then you've got the other side who are above the fray to a degree and they can see through all of that. And you've got both sides kind of at each other's throats, essentially.
Yeah.
Like one side is saying, we have all the answers, and the other side is saying, but your answers don't...
fit.
They don't fit with my lived experience. Yeah, but you're just a racist. Well, fuck you. Do you know what? You get this... I don't know, because if you're being told top down that your lived experience is wrong, like you're never going to make any fucking progress with that person. Like,
certainly not.
And even if you explain that, like how patronizing would it be for me to say to somebody who was anti-immigration and, let's say, an Irish nationalist, say, how patronizing would it be for them to hear me say, look, lad, you haven't spent the time thinking about these ideas like I have. You haven't read what I've read. And if you knew what I knew, then you'd agree with me. But you're too fucking whatever to see the reality of the situation. Like how fucking patronizing is that? I know, and it's never put as explicitly as that, but people fucking, they feel it. Like if you're telling them their lived experience is wrong, you're just going to get a fuck you response.
Big time, yeah. Well, if you're caricaturizing, you're turning other people's ideas into absolute caricatures of them, their actual ideas, it's never going to be good. You're never having an honest conversation, and it's that me versus you thing again, then my ideology versus your stupidity or your ideology. It's I don't know, I think there's I don't know, people are just looking for answers, looking for meaningful ways to get along with one another, and to, I don't know, we're trying to legislate against people being assholes. I don't think it's a good idea. Like, people are going to be assholes whether there's laws in place saying you shouldn't be an asshole or not. I think that's just human nature. I think better people are able to stand up for themselves rather than, oh well, no, you can quote a hate speech law that says you can't be an asshole to me. It's like, no, that person, if you're having a difficulty with somebody, that's the world, that's life. If someone's being a dickhead, you should be able to call them out on it and have a chat, not fucking, look up to mammy/daddy government to fucking solve your problems for you, especially interpersonal ones or work relations or whatever it is. That's not to say we shouldn't have any legislation, but I don't know. I think there's definitely a tendency nowadays to kind of try to make everything safe, absolutely everything, even language.
And it's top down, as you say. It's we've decided that these safety measures have to be put in place for your benefit,
your safety. Yeah,
and there's a parental thing there, like there's the parent-child relationship. Because another thing that and again, I don't follow this closely, so I take this broadly. So my understanding is that Micheál Martin said recently that the lockdown may be extended, but we haven't kind of decided yet. And that's essentially all he said, which has left us, the quote-unquote children of Ireland, going, oh, I wonder what daddy's going to what he's actually going to do.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? Like, so instead of him coming out and saying, right, lads, the numbers are X, until they become below Y, we have to maintain the lockdown. So let's keep what we're doing going, and as soon as the numbers get down to this level, then we'll open everything back up. So then you're informed.
Oh, you have a metric in your mind.
Exactly. And you know what the story is. You're not just waiting for daddy to tell you what's happening or what's going to happen.
Which has been the case from day one. I mean, it's a year nearly into the 2-week lockdown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. A year into the 2-week lockdown. Fucking hell. On that note, we'll wrap it up and start on to the next one.
100%.